Statistics revealed that stress is at an all-time high in our modern world. Studies show that around 77% of people experience physical symptoms of stress daily, with 48% saying their stress levels have increased over the past 5 years. With stress tied to heart disease, anxiety, and depression, I knew I had to do something to regain control over my life. Yet even knowing that, there were so many days I felt trapped in a cycle of worry and distraction, unable to break free, unable to find peace. Every morning began the same way. The alarm would jolt me awake, and within seconds my mind would flood with everything I needed to do: emails, deadlines, bills to pay, groceries to buy, a never-ending list that only grew as the day went on. Each item felt like a boulder pressing down on me, suffocating me, and no matter how many hours I put in, I couldn't escape that crushing weight. At work, my focus slipped. I'd lose myself in spirals of stress until minutes, sometimes hours, had disappeared. I remember sitting at my desk one afternoon, heart racing and hands trembling as I looked at the mountain of tasks before me. The air felt thick, stifling. Even breathing felt like a struggle, as if my lungs couldn't pull in enough oxygen to keep me afloat. I wanted to scream, but even that felt impossible. My chest tightened with every passing second. I'd read articles on stress management before, ones that told me to take a break or breathe deeply, but those tips felt useless in the face of this unrelenting storm. When my boss stopped by, asking for a quick update on a project, I couldn't meet her eyes. I wanted to tell her I was drowning, but I just nodded, forcing a smile as I held back tears. It felt like the entire world was spinning out of control, like I was standing in the center of a whirlwind, helpless against the chaos swirling around me. Simple tasks began to take an eternity to complete. Concentration slipped through my fingers like sand, and with each lost moment, my anxiety only deepened. The stress compounded daily, and even when I finally lay down to sleep, my mind refused to quiet down. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, trapped in an endless loop of overthinking. My heart would pound, thoughts racing and tumbling over each other, leaving me feeling like I was spiraling into a dark pit I couldn't climb out of. One particular evening stands out in my mind, a memory that still brings tears to my eyes. I had just gotten home after a long day, feeling emotionally wrung out and physically exhausted. I collapsed onto my couch, barely able to keep my eyes open, but my mind was too wound up to relax. I could feel the walls closing in, the silence around me amplifying every single thought until it became deafening. It was like every fear, every worry I'd been pushing down, came roaring to the surface. I felt so alone, even though I had people in my life who cared. In that moment, it felt like no one could understand the pain I was going through, the sheer weight of it all. The idea of focusing on anything positive felt like a cruel joke. I was caught in a vicious cycle of feeling overwhelmed and distracted, and each day only seemed to pull me further away from finding relief. The pressure of staying productive, of meeting all my responsibilities, felt unbearable, like I was barely holding on to some thread that could snap at any moment. What I didn't realize was that all this distraction and disarray were symptoms of something deeper. The nonstop pace of life had conditioned me to constantly worry about what was next, to always anticipate the worst-case scenario. The weight of that pressure robbed me of the ability to enjoy the present, and soon I found myself constantly looking back, haunted by everything I couldn't change or fix. It became this endless mental fog, and I began to lose parts of myself. My laughter faded, my sense of peace was gone, and there were days when I didn't recognize the person in the mirror. I'd ask myself, is this really what life is supposed to feel like? At the peak of it all, I began to experience physical symptoms that scared me. I'd get these headaches, almost like a dull throb that never went away. My shoulders and neck were always tense, muscles knotted as if I were carrying the world on my shoulders. Every day, it seemed I was fighting just to keep going, and every night, the weight felt heavier, the ache deeper. There were times I questioned if I'd ever feel okay again. I was stuck, held hostage by stress, chained to the distractions and anxieties that consumed my mind. The journey to find my peace again, to restore even a hint of focus in my life, felt impossible. It seemed like I was in a constant battle, with no clear way out, but I was so desperate for change that even the faintest glimmer of hope became my lifeline. Looking back on those days still brings a lump to my throat, because I remember how lost I felt, how isolated, as if the rest of the world was moving forward while I was trapped in quicksand, sinking slowly and watching everything slip away. In those dark moments, I remember the depth of pain I felt, the days I spent feeling like I was walking through life with no purpose, no clarity. The struggle was real, and the weight of it was heavy beyond words. After reaching that breaking point, something shifted inside me. I knew that if I didn't find a way to change, I'd lose myself completely. The first steps felt small, almost too small to make a difference, but I clung to them as if they were lifelines. I'd read somewhere that slowing down and practicing intentional breathing could be a powerful way to reclaim peace, so I decided to give it a try, even though it seemed too simple to work. Each morning, instead of diving straight into my routine, I began with just 5 minutes of slow, focused breathing. It felt strange, sitting there and trying to clear my mind, but it was a start. I noticed that just those few minutes helped me ground myself, giving me a tiny break from the constant mental chatter. That small success encouraged me to try a bit more. Soon, I started creating a brief morning ritual. I set my alarm a few minutes earlier earlier, not to rush through tasks, but to spend time in silence, letting my mind settle before the day took hold of me. One day, during one of these moments, I found myself reflecting on the constant distractions that had become my life. I was always checking my phone, always reaching for something that would pull me away from the present. So, I decided to make a change. I limited my screen time, set my phone to do not disturb mode during specific hours, and created boundaries around when I check emails or scroll through social media. It was challenging at first. My mind would urge me to pick up my phone to see if I was missing something important, but I reminded myself of the commitment I had made. I wanted focus. I wanted a life that felt intentional. And even though the struggle was real, I slowly began to feel a shift. With each small step, the fog began to clear. I found myself more present during conversations, actually listening to people without my mind wandering. I could concentrate on tasks at work, focusing longer and completing them with greater ease. It felt like I was finally reclaiming pieces of myself that had been lost to stress and distraction. There was still a long way to go, but each small victory gave me hope. Then, I discovered a local meditation class. It was held in a quiet room with soft lighting, a space designed to calm and center those who entered. I felt nervous that first day, unsure of what to expect, but as I sat in that room, surrounded by people who also sought a sense of calm, I felt a strange comfort. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone in my struggles. Each session focused on mindfulness, on observing our thoughts without judgment, and on creating space between us and our worries. It wasn't easy at first. My mind was so used to jumping from one thought to the next, but with time, I learned to gently bring it back, to breathe through the chaos instead of fighting against it. As the weeks passed, I noticed changes in myself that went beyond my mind. I was sleeping better, no longer waking up in the middle of the night with racing thoughts. My heart no longer felt as heavy, and my anxiety began to lessen. Friends started commenting on how I seemed calmer, more present, and even happier. Hearing this from others reassured me that these small steps were working, that I was on the right path. And for the first time, I felt hope, a hope that maybe, just maybe, I could truly find peace in this busy world. I began to explore more techniques to help manage stress and regain my focus. One of the most helpful things I discovered was journaling. Each night before bed, I'd take a few minutes to write down my thoughts, worries, and even small victories from the day. At first, it felt strange to put my thoughts on paper, but as the pages filled, I found that my mind felt lighter. Instead of carrying everything inside, I could let it go, even if just for the night. This simple act helped me process emotions and let go of the weight I carried daily. There were days when the journey felt slow, when old habits would sneak back in, and I'd find myself overwhelmed by stress. But I learned to be kinder to myself. Instead of feeling like a failure, I'd remind myself that growth takes time, that even small steps are progress. Gradually, these mindfulness practices became a part of my life, and I began to realize just how much they changed me. It was around this time that I came across the mindfulness method, reduce stress and enhance focus in a busy world. The title resonated with me because it mirrored exactly what I'd been struggling with, finding calm in the midst of chaos. As I read through it, I found insights and guidance that helped deepen my journey toward mindfulness. The book offered structured ways to practice mindfulness, helping me make sense of the techniques I'd been trying on my own. It wasn't just a set of instructions. It felt like a companion that understood the battles I was fighting. With each chapter, I discovered practical ways to reduce stress and enhance focus, even on the most overwhelming days. The book helped me fully understand the power of being present, teaching me how to bring my focus back when my mind started to drift. It provided specific exercises that helped me strengthen my ability to stay grounded, even when life became hectic. I realized that these mindfulness practices weren't just quick fixes. They were tools for creating lasting change. The mindfulness method transformed my life in ways I hadn't thought possible. I found myself calmer, able to approach each day with clarity and focus that I'd never known before. If you're struggling with stress and distraction, I wholeheartedly recommend the mindfulness method. Reduce stress and enhance focus in a busy world. It's a guide that takes you by the hand, leading you through the chaos with practical steps that bring real peace. You can get a digital copy of the book at LibriFFY.com. The link is in the description. This book isn't just about reducing stress. It's about reclaiming your life, finding focus, and finally experiencing the peace that often feels so out of reach.